So we have this system of databases and registers that supports ownership and economic activity. And as said before, these databases solve the trust problem and the double spending problem between actors that don't know each other. Now, the critical point, of course, in the existence of these transaction databases is how we can trust the databases themselves. The trust in these databases is created by the database owners and the infrastructure and protection that these owners put in place. Let's have a look at each of these three. The database owners are what we call trusted third parties. We trust them to create for us a truthful transaction database. These trusted third parties are actors like banks, notaries, civil registers, trade registers, governments, payment services, depositors, transfer agents, customs, escrow agents, companies, you name it. Now, these trusted third parties are consensus creators. They create consensus on the objective truth on who owns what. And they do that through transaction verification. Each transaction is essentially checked for two simple elements. And that is 1, the signature authenticity, which answers the question if we are dealing with the rightful owner. And 2, the historical coherence with the transaction database in order to be sure that you own what you want to spend and that you didn't already spend it and thus aren't committing double spending. Now, let's have a look at the infrastructure used by these trusted third parties. These trusted third parties maintain each their own proprietary databases, which exist independently one from another and isolated from the outside world. So each bank has its own database. Each notary service has its own database. Custom services all around the world have their own databases. Civil registers, companies, payment services, trade registers, you name it, they all have their proprietary databases. You can sense that this kind of isolation in an open and interconnected global economy is a source of friction and inefficiency. How about the protection that these database owners apply? The trusted third parties protect their databases by applying centralized firewalls and isolating their databases from the outside world. By applying a centralized permissioning system such that only authorized persons can access the database. And by applying a centralized administration and database content creation. Consequence of this kind of protection is that external actors can't access that database without passing by the trusted third party, which is the gatekeeper to the content of the database. So that is the way traditional databases are organized. This system creates a centralized consensus, meaning that one single central party creates the consensus on transactions that then serves the other stakeholders. So we currently live in a world of centralized traditional databases, with transaction databases everywhere. And that creates redundancies. Think, for example, about the transfer between two banks. They both will have the same transaction independently in their own database. Or another example, the often redundant identity databases that are run in different national institutions. And because these databases share data but are isolated one from another, often there exist discrepancies between different databases, which leads to litigations, and the centralized databases require by consequence constant reconciliation. And there is very limited interconnection and communication between these databases, which creates cumbersome and costly transfer of ownership between different databases. See you in the next video.